Hey guys, Kiwi here. Today, I want to discuss Season 2, Episode 14 of Fear the Walking Dead, Wrath. This episode was so goddamn amazing it honestly surprised me. There's so much I want to talk about, so first let's jump into what Ophelia has been up to, and then get into the Colonia and the hotel. Now it is true that episodes 14 and 15 weird back to back, but I think that they're both so goddamn amazing that they both deserve videos on their own. So the episode starts with the truck that Ophelia stole from Strand breaking down on the road and her trying to fix it. Sadly, she gets interrupted by walkers but does a damn good job fending off for herself against a handful of zombies. So I get that they're trying to turn her into some sort of badass, but I honestly don't like it. I'm not saying they can't turn her into a badass, I'm just saying I'm not a fan of the way they've randomly started doing it. Their excuse is that her whole childhood is based on a lie. She grew up thinking that her parents were helpless, simple immigrants, but in reality her dad was a horrible murderer haunted by his past. This, along with tons of other backstory, has been thrown at us in Season 2. First, through learning her father's true past, her mother dying at the end of Season 1, along with her father's supposed death. They should have given her more character development earlier on, but I suppose this is better than nothing. So, she fends off the first wave of zombies, but as more approach her, she realizes that she needs to get out of there. She grabs as much supplies as she can, ditches the truck, and keeps going on foot into the desert. A majority of people wanted Ophelia to go to the US, and it looks like they'll get their wish. She gets shot and retreats behind a tree, but ends up surrendering to some old man telling her welcome to America. This was honestly kind of a disappointing cliffhanger for this character, but that being said, Ophelia is like the only slightly negative thing in the final two episodes. Moving on to the Colonia. Nick is seen taking tons of drugs out of Alejandro's stash with someone and brings it all to the cartel. Nick tells the cartel that he knows that they found the Colonia and he tries to make a deal with them for peace. Marco, the leader of the cartel, goes on talking about how they want the Colonia and how they don't need his offerings anymore. With Elena's son Antonio, I believe, and the rest of the cartel by Marco's side, they confidently threaten to murder everyone at the Colonia, eventually showing Nick the murdered bodies of Francisco and his daughters. Marco tells Nick, if you don't want to die, leave today. Nick returns to the Colonia and tells Alejandro and Luisiana everything that he found out, ignoring any anger they might have, and he's trying to convince everyone to leave. A random member of the Colonia dies during this and comes back as a zombie on a nearby bed, attacking Nick. Alejandro fights it off Nick, but gets bitten on his arm in the process. Nick returns the favor and gets the zombie off Alejandro, throwing himself off the balcony with it. This was a complete shock to me, but honestly, I loved it so much, as it's just so perfectly ironic since he claims he is immune. I do feel bad for him getting bitten, and I do like Alejandro, but that honestly works out so perfectly for his character and his story. It's possible they could have amputated his arm immediately, but it wouldn't have fit the situation whatsoever. The way that he got bit is honestly perfect storytelling, and I love everything the way it happens. Plus, I'm pretty sure that they were unaware that you could even amputate and save someone's life regardless. Anyways, the zombie Alejandro pushed off the balcony lands on someone else and bites their frickin' nose off. I do admit that the nose coming off of the guy's face looked a bit odd, but it was just adding on to the intense situation. The woman trying to help No-Nose actually ends up getting her finger bitten off as well. Nick ends up killing the zombie by gouging its eye sockets out with his thumbs, literally destroying the brain, I assume, with his bare hands. Just imagining doing that yourself and what it might feel like just makes me cringe. It was so horrifying and extremely gruesome to watch him do that. I was definitely hyped by the end of this scene, and I just loved how everything in this situation played out. It was just brilliant. So after that entire mess, later on Nick is packing and talking to Luciana. Alejandro walks in. Nick says enough is enough and calls him out for his bullshit, and he confesses that he is not immune. He was in fact bitten by that druggie that he tried to save that he told Nick about, the one that stole drugs from him or whatever. He manipulated the story to lead the people, and this makes Louisiana feel completely betrayed and blind as he tells her that she believed what she wanted to believe, that she pleased that she saw him get bit. Alejandro leaves as Louisiana and Nick argue about leaving the Colonia or not. And honestly, it's not like they can't find another place to fortify. The cartel wants to murder everyone, and the Colonia is not worth protecting. The people living there aren't a freaking army. They're families and elders and parents and children, and most of the parents don't know how to shoot a gun and they don't have ammo. They just can't defend themselves. And honestly, they have a better shot in the wild, fending for themselves, trying to find another place to fortify, than staying at the Colonia and just getting slaughtered, because I assume that the cartel has tons and tons of ammo, right? No matter how much sentimental value the Colonia may have to Louisiana, she should eventually realize that it's not worth it. And I do think she, smartens up and makes good decisions here coming up. But that's pretty much it for the Colonia this episode. So let's go ahead and move on to the hotel. And I'll get back to Nick and everyone else in the next video, in the finale. Alright, so we have Madison telling Travis that Chris is better off with the people who understand him, and really, he's better off with murderers because he's a murderer himself. He'd only be better off with them away from the hotel for the single fact that they're away from the hotel and not endangering the people there. Travis then apologizes to Alicia for not believing in her about Chris, and for not protecting her like he should have. I respect Travis for doing this, although it is debatable why Chris picked up the knife that night in the compound in the middle of Season 2, and I'm going to be doing a huge character showcase spotlight thing for Chris later on, so look out for that. But many of my questions were kind of answered as we find out that they let all the civilians that came to the hotel looking for shelter into the parking garage, including Brandon and his buddy Derek. Chris nowhere to be seen. Madison starts talking to them and asks why Brandon's so roughed up, and him and Derek tell her that their friend who didn't have a license crashed their truck and died. Madison believes Brandon's story as she realizes that they were the people that Travis left Chris with, and that he's probably dead as they said. I didn't believe Chris was dead at this point, as they wouldn't kill him off screen like that. As many fans believe, unless you see a dead body, the person isn't confirmed dead, especially on The Walking Dead with such a major character like this. So Madison brings Andre to relocate Brandon to fix his shoulder, engaging the civilians in the parking garage as he's getting medical attention before them. And they think this is unfair as they bring Brandon into the hotel. The civilians follow them as practically an angry mob. If they were going to get all worked up and pissed off and angry like this, it should have been about not getting rooms in the hotel and being stuck in the parking garage, and maybe that was some of it, but someone getting medical treatment, budging in line was really the final straw that triggers them. Whatever, okay, so regardless, Travis sees Brandon and Derek in the crowd from up in the hotel, possibly thinking that Chris is there too, and rushes down to confront them. Strand stares at it all, just completely shocked. So, they fix Brandon's shoulder and have him confess to Travis about Chris. He says that him and Derek were so tired from staying up all night driving together that they let Chris drive while they slept in the back of the truck. And this is so freaking stupid. Even if it was true, if they both know how to drive, one of them should be sleeping at a time, right? So one of them can drive, one of them sleeps. They wake the other person up and they switch. Chris can just be the passenger the whole time since he didn't know how to drive, right? And apparently Derek knew that Chris didn't have his license, but Brandon didn't. But regardless, they could have figured something out. I mean, they're literally just such freaking idiots. So Chris ends up crashing the truck, flipping it several times and making it barrel roll. They said that he died from the crash instantly when Travis asks, breaking his neck or something going through the glass, and that they buried him under a tree because he would have liked it. And their story obviously seems completely full of bullshit, especially at the end as they act completely out of character, trying to be respectful of Chris's death and telling Travis what they think he wants to hear in the heat of the moment. We see a flashback sequence of Chris crashing the truck, but not the end results. And as the fans say, unless you see a dead body, they aren't dead. I didn't even know if this was like true or not. It almost seemed like sort of a dream sequence, like maybe it was all a lie. So Travis completely believes their story at first, it seems, but quickly starts realizing how full of shit they are, asking them questions, confirming that they were lying to him as they are obviously slipping up. He then gets Madison and anyone else that was there to leave, locking the three of them in a room alone together. Travis proceeds to beat the shit out of both of them, demanding answers. They beg him to stop and plead they'll tell him the truth, so he stops briefly, as they explained what really happened to Chris, and surprise, surprise, it was the exact same damn thing as what happened to James, the exact same damn thing that Chris said to Travis when he was manipulating him, saying, "Oh, look at what they want to do to James. They want to kill him. What'll happen if I get injured? They'll probably kill me." Chris knew this was probably going to happen, and he still went with them. The show then cuts back to Chris crashing the truck. We then see him crawling out of it and crawling down the road with a completely broken leg, trying to get away from Brandon and Derek. They catch up to him and execute Chris right then and there. After hearing this, Travis proceeds to beat the holy hell out of both of them, letting out all the rage that he had built up. Travis finally snapped, and let me just say that it took him a hell of a lot longer to snap than most people. This proves that all of those times Brandon and all of his buddies were picking on Travis and giving him a hard time, he always had the capability of standing up to them or even murdering all of them, with or without a weapon, and the fact of how pure of a person Travis was held him back. The thing is, though, the longer it takes for someone to snap, when they finally do snap, the worse it is. Yes, he did definitely go overboard. They could have captured Brandon and Derek as prisoners, and Travis knew that. He realized that they probably murdered Chris long before he locked the door, and had already decided that they weren't leaving that room alive if his suspicions were true. What makes it worse is Madison watched it all. She watches Travis transform and what this world has made him snap into and become. And holy crap, was this scene intense. They directed and edited it perfectly. It did exactly what it needed to do, and it left me on the edge of my seat feeling full of adrenaline and completely shocked. The final 2 episodes were back to back, as I said, but I actually had to pause it for several minutes during the credits and recollect my thoughts and prepare myself for the finale. I didn't even know what to think about Chris, let alone Travis stooping to the same level that Brandon did, as it mirrors Brandon and Chris's dead bodies in similar positions. There's also the fact that he injured an innocent man who is trying to get in and stop him, bashing his head between the door and the wall, then relocking the door. All in all, I cannot put enough emphasis on how crazy this episode was, from the crazy crap that happened at the Colonia to Travis snapping and us finding out the truth of Chris. And honestly, this episode was one of the best episodes of Fear the Walking Dead, hands down. And to all the fans out there, this was definitely an episode to brag about, and it wasn't even the season finale. This episode had so much satisfying payoff, and I really enjoyed the way that they decided to take the story in both situations, and I really also enjoyed the way they wrapped this up, which I'll be getting into my next video on the season 2 finale. So what do you guys feel about Travis and his transformation for now? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.